Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to Resort Originals. Today we're going to be doing an anime podcast. First time I believe we've done that on the channel, and we have a featured guest today, and his name is Zach. Why don't you go and fully introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? I'm LumioseTrainerZac, and I do videos on the Pokemon games and anime.
So with the recent news that we got, I'm going to say spoilers right now because it's big news, but it kind of is everywhere. I mean, the freaking... their Twitter literally spoiled it.
Yeah, they did a little like wink,
their
you know.
English, yeah, it was their English account. Like I don't even think the tournament's going to be happening for like at least maybe 2 months. Does that sound about the timeline? They're about 2 months ahead.
They're like 3 months away.
Oh man, that's so bad. And even though they did that in the freaking preview, I don't even think I said it out loud. But yeah, Ash Ketchum freaking became champion. Like that's just it's wild. It's wild. So we're gonna be talking about just kind of about the Alola League in general. And as you guys know, if you guys are coming from Zach's channel, he does all the league reviews. So I heard people are kind of starting to ask what's going on. Where's the Alola League? Do you have any transparency on that?
I mean, I'm going to make my review for the Alola League. I'm still kind of just waiting for the arc to be over because even though the league is technically over and Ash still won, there's still the exhibition battle with the Mask Royal. So I'm still waiting for like that whole league arc to fully wrap up before I can actually get it going. But as of right now, I'm actually working on it little by little so that once that last league episode comes up, I can just upload it that week and have it done. But yeah, people have been like super impatient. As soon as the Ash won, they're like, dude, where's the Alola League? Dude, where's the Alola League review? I'm like, yo, relax. There's still like a couple more episodes to the overall league itself. Like, even though the tournament is technically over, there's still a bit more, which is interesting. I think this is like the first time where like the league technically wrapped up, but there's still a little bit more after since they had the whole Mask Royal Kukui battle.
Yeah, I feel like they're kind of treating it like the Elite Four, where normally after you kind of win, you take on the champion. So I guess the champion would technically be Kukui for this. So that's kind of how I see it being fit. Where I think it worked the same way as the other leagues, where if you won the league tournament, then you had the opportunity to take on the Elite Four. Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically, like, once you become champion, like, for example, Tobias or Virgil, whenever they won their league tournament, then they get the chance to battle the Elite Four and the champion. But that happens separate from the initial Pokemon League tournament. That happens in the Champions League, I believe.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I thought there's, like, I know they mentioned it in past leagues, and that would make sense, because, I mean, they've canonized the Elite Four, because it wouldn't make sense, like, well, how do you go against the Elite Four if you... like even if you win the championship or whatever. So I think they have explained that as far as that goes.
Yeah, and actually, I think that actually makes so much sense. I mean, they never did that they never explained that in the beginning. I think it was during Diamond and Pearl they finally like made it a thing where they're like, okay, the league tournaments are so you can battle the champion. So technically, you're the league champion, but now to battle the Elite Four and the true regional champion. I think the term is champion master. So there's like the Pokemon League champion who wins the competition, and then there's the champion master who is like Cynthia and Alder. And I think that's really cool, and it makes sense because in the games you're like the only person, like maybe a few people who challenge the Elite Four and the champion, but like that's different because the games are very small compared to the big world that the anime has. So if you think about all the people who completed their 8 badges, some of them won't even qualify or even pass the first Elite Four member. So this is kind of like a good way to, I guess, find the true person who's really worthy enough to actually compete against them.
Exactly. And I think that would make a lot of sense if you just kind of think of it as like a real world thing where if I make it to like the very top of the chain at whatever company I'm at, I don't want to deal with all these like little things that are going on like super below me, where you kind of want someone to earn their way up to be able to get that conversation or to be able to go and battle the Elite Four and the champion. So being it kind of like, I think it's treated like as an annual event, like normally each arc or each generation kind of goes by every 3 years. But I think in the actual, like their timeline, each one's about a year in length, even if Ash is always 10 years old. But I think that's kind of how they've treated it, or at least they've mentioned it in past leagues, where it's like this happens once a year, where I believe it was actually right away in the very first episode of Pokemon I Choose You, where he saw the Pokemon League going on and Ash wanted to eventually compete in that. So full year later, he was able to go and at least compete in the league.
Yeah, it's like an annual thing. It's like a legit event, a legit event. And I like that about, they don't really bring it up that much anymore in the newer anime series, but back then in the original series, up until I believe Black and White, whenever Ash got his 8th gym badge, it didn't mean that he can go straight to the league. There was still like a month couple breaks, you know, there was like month breaks where like, I believe in the Indigo League, there was like a 2 to 3 month break. No, I think it was like a 1 month break or something like that. Point is, there's been breaks. Like they're like, okay, Ash got his 8th badge, but he still can't go to the Pokemon League because it happens at this certain date. So then the next couple of episodes in between the 8th badge and him going to the league is focused on him training and getting ready for the league. And I really appreciate that. It's like you said, it's kind of like an annual thing. It's like an event. It's not like, oh, as soon as you get 8 badges, you can do it. Like, no, like everyone has to get their chance. And if you get it by this date, then you can compete, which is why like the first episode of the Kalos League, there was that one guy who was mad at Ash and challenged him literally right before his battle because he couldn't get his 8 badges before the deadline.
Yeah, it actually, like, it's a very good real world, like, transition. Like, hey, you've got this amount of time. If you don't get it, you don't make the cut. Better luck next year. Even if it takes you 1 badge to be able to get to that opportunity, I mean, you have to qualify, and that's the league qualifications for it compared to something different, because in Alola, it's a brand new league. They're introducing everyone to it, so anyone has the ability to enter.
Yeah.
So I think now we can like kind of officially get into the topics. So the first one is Ash Ketchum is a champion. Did you think it would actually happen before you saw the preview episode?
Oh man! All right. So before I saw the preview episode, I wanted him to win. All right, and part of me was kind of sure that he was gonna win, but there's also part of me who that didn't think he was gonna win. It's so weird because I feel like every single league we want Ash to win, and we're like, oh, he could win this league, but then he really can't. Like if you think back to the Johto League, he lost to Harrison, and he lost in the top 8, I believe, and then in Hoenn he was top 8. Unova, he went to top 16. Like most leagues, you want him to win, and you think maybe he can, but then when he loses, he doesn't even really get to the finals. And I think it wasn't really until the Kalos League where they made him reach the very end. We're like, oh my god, he can actually win this time. And then of course he didn't. And the problem with that, everyone raged over it. Even I got mad. I mean, I'm over it now. But
I'm
like
raising my hand over here.
but it was like I was so mad. And like the fact that okay, Ash is going to the finals again, like I don't know, part of me it had like I don't know, like I was like worried that this might be another Kalos League situation because he was so sure to win that time. Like even the Japanese episode is like Ash's ultimate battle Kalos League victory. Like why would they name it that if the main character isn't gonna win? And like even though he was in the finals, like a lot of people had their doubts. Like they were like, no, he's not gonna win because he should have won in the Kalos League. And they even teased it and made it seem like he was gonna win and he didn't. So why would they do it? It's like almost like we couldn't trust the anime staff anymore. So if you asked me in the beginning of the Sun and Moon series, was Ash gonna win the Alola League? I would probably say no, because I really didn't see Sun and Moon Ash. Just judging from like the first preview we got before the series even started, I didn't think he was gonna get that far. This is supposed to be like a laid back series, and they didn't even have a league yet. But then as the series went on, I kind of saw like maybe he could, but I still had my doubts. And it wasn't until the 6th episode of the Alola League where Ash battled How, and they gave us that tease, like that little troll where like it looked like Ash lost, and they literally counted him out until they found out his Rowlet was asleep. That's when I was like, no, he's gonna win, because they wouldn't like troll us and show Ash lose. They had his face on the screen. They blacked it out. They called him out. He put his hat down like he was ready to lose, only for him to troll us. And like I feel like if they were to do that, they weren't gonna do it again. Why would they troll us and make Ash lose and then actually have him lose again in the finals? That would be the biggest middle finger to the fans. So that was like almost like they knew we were gonna be upset, like, oh, Ash lost, but then it's like, oh no, he didn't. And we would like laugh. I mean, some people didn't like that joke. I thought it was funny, and it just confirmed to me that Ash is gonna win. But part of me still kind of had my doubts because of the Kalos League.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that specific incident, I genuinely believe, just from what we've seen in the past, logic from the Pokemon anime is if your Pokemon falls asleep, it technically loses. That's literally happened in the Pokemon League battles before, where if you see I think it was like a Butterfree or something like that, and it was using a sleep powder, and it knocked the Pokemon out where like it wasn't fainted, but it was asleep, and it's like, oh, unable to battle. So this is the first time I think we've ever seen in the anime where if a Pokemon falls asleep, they're not disqualified from the match. So actually, that's a new style.
Actually, the thing with that is I feel like that's very, I feel like it all depends, because I feel like each league has their different rules, and I feel like for the that was in the Indigo League, the first ever league. I don't know, they had the weirdest rules, because Butterfree, it was Richie's Butterfree who made Squirtle fall asleep. And then because he fell asleep, he was unable to battle. And that is so dumb. But like in other leagues, Pokemon have fallen asleep. And they haven't counted it out because sleep is a status condition. I don't know why, because the original series of the anime was very weird, because, you know, that was the first time they made it based off the games. And it didn't really stay true to the games that much. Yeah. But like later leagues, are like, most famously, the one that comes into my head is the Sinnoh League against Tobias. Like, he was literally making all of Ash's Pokemon sleep with Dark Void. He made Heracross fall asleep and stuff like that.
Because he ironically had sleep talk. Like, how do you even prepare for that?
Exactly. So it's like, technically it's not. And the thing with like the whole Rowlet situation, like he fell asleep, but it wasn't even like a status condition. I mean, spoilers for my Alola League review, but I mentioned this in the when I reviewed the episode, is that like that's kind of who Rowlet is. He falls asleep for everything. Like, even the episode before, he was fired up because he was going to face Decidueye and he wanted to train. And then in the middle of the training, he fell asleep. He's just a sleepy character. It's who he is. And people like to compare it to Charizard, how it got disqualified. But the difference between that is that I totally understand, because Charizard straight up refused to battle. If it doesn't want to fight, like, you deserve to be disqualified because it's not going to do anything. But Rowlet's not like, oh, you know, F this, I don't want to go to sleep. I'm F this, I'm going to sleep. Like, he wanted to battle. He's just, it's part of the joke. It's who he is. I mean, if he fell asleep also in Ash's first grand trial against Hala, which makes total sense because Hala saw Rowlet fall asleep in the middle of its battle. So like, he was the one who made the call. Hey, hold up, wait, he's asleep, you know?
Yeah, I think just the biggest thing that it comes to the anime logic is they're not very consistent with their rules. So everyone can kind of have their own interpretation whether something should be justified or not. So basically the counter argument for Charizard would be like, well, he fell asleep. Who cares if he is choosing not to battle? I mean, you still gotta knock the thing out. Where I know sometimes they'll have like timers on it, at least in like actual VGC and stuff. So they could put a timer on the battle, even though I don't think it's ever been done in the anime. But it's like, hey, if this thing's falling asleep and you still can't knock it out, that's just showing how weak your other Pokemon is, because he's not even attacking you. So it's kind of a give and take, where it's just more of, do we accept the logic from the very beginning, or do we accept changes that have been happening over time, or do we just kind of like, this is the rules for this region and this is what we have to accept, and we can't compare it to other league rules because that's a different league and they're not able to be compared to one another because they're technically separate.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, you can't really compare it. I mean, you can compare it to some regard because, you know, they're Pokemon leagues. So, like, and all of them, they have their similarities, but each league has their own different set of rules. Like, the Indigo League, they had the different field changes, which I loved. I loved when they used to do the different fields where they battle in. They had the different field changes, and then after you win in all 4 fields, then you go to the main tournament. The Johto League made you battle in brackets, so they have like 3 trainers face each other, and then the winner out of those 3 ends up advancing. The Hoenn League had double battles before you make it to the main tournament. Like it's stuff like that. Like, each league is different. Unova League, you start off with 1-on-1s, but then in the Kalos League, it was straight up 3-on-3 from the very beginning. Like, each league has their own different rules, so it's like you can't really compare them that much. I mean, you can obviously, but you know, each one has their own different set of rules. So if one does something that doesn't show up in the other, you can't get mad. Like, oh, I mean, you can get mad if that's what you prefer, but you can't get mad that, oh, this league is not doing this. How come? Like, each region is different. Each league is different.
And I think that's like a perfect transition to the next topic, which is basically the format of the Alola League. And I feel like it's very different than what we've experienced in past leagues. Mainly for the fact that the battles were so short. We had basically the first round was technically like a battle royale, which was something that we've never seen before. And in my video that I'm kind of working on right now is what you could see in a battle royale is you could have literally the strongest trainer out there, but if he doesn't have any friends, he's on his own. So you could have 10 average Pokemon and just like, that's the strongest one, let's knock it out now. And the guy who has the strongest Pokemon's like, crap, what do I do? I mean, that's what you could kind of strategize. Like maybe there could have been a stronger trainer out there, but because people combined their strengths to knock out one, where I think even in the Battle Royale, I believe a Salamence was knocked out by, I think, Lana and Lily, if I remember.
It was Kiawe and Lily.
Yeah. So it's like they're like it's interesting strategizing, but as far as like the fairness when it comes to finding the strongest Pokemon or the strongest trainers, it's a little bit skewed depending on how many friends you got, basically.
Yeah, like it's totally not fair because obviously the Ash's friends, they all want to advance. They're all not going to face each other. So they like basically teamed up. Like Kiawe, I believe he used a Dragon Tail on Salamence, which is super effective. And then Lily, which she's kind of one of the weakest ones, but she took advantage of the fact that Salamence was already kind of damaged and like used an Icy Wind to like get the kill, basically steal Kiawe's kill. And Lana and Malo were teaming up, and like bringing up what you said earlier, like, oh, they could be the strongest trainer and they could gang up on them. They tried to do that because the person who was expected to win the league, Ilima, he was the one who, because he had participated in the Kalos League, they said. So he's like, oh, he's the one who's most likely to win, and Team Skull doesn't like him. So they all try to gang up on him. But of course, they're weak, so they all got taken out. But they tried to do stuff like that. It would have been cool if they kind of did that, like, oh, maybe this really badass trainer gets taken out early, and they didn't. But they kind of showed different aspects of, like, I think Kiawe tried to get, Kiawe was getting jumped earlier as well by like this one guy who didn't like, and he sent his goons after him, but he took care of it. Like, of course, you know, the main characters all prevailed, but you did get to see different aspects of like people teaming up or people like jumping others and stuff like that. One cool moment was with Ash and Gladion. Like, they saw each other and they had the opportunity to battle, but they're like, nah, they don't want to battle each other there. They want to battle in the main tournament. And then like they both kind of teamed up because they were both getting jumped at the same time, and they kind of like, hey, watch your back. And then like it was a cool moment where they like kind of went across each other and attacked. But like, I thought it was very interesting. And in terms of like the whole league in general, like the format, it's like I said, it's very interesting because it's like the first ever league. So because Alola doesn't have gyms, their rule is that anyone can enter, which was really crazy. But I feel like it made sense in the context of the Sun and Moon show because every anime series, you know, they have their main episodes where the plot happens and then there's like a lot of filler. But even in Sun and Moon, they have so many filler episodes, but they introduce minor like episode of the day characters that you think you wouldn't see again, but they keep reoccurring, which is like, I guess, part of the whole theme, which was really cool. You got to see so many characters that we saw throughout the show that we thought were relevant show up. Like, there was the DJ guy. There was this one guy that Ash battled who had a mud break, like in episode 12. There was Kahili from the Elite Four, who isn't that strong in the anime. Just like a bunch of characters. And I feel like it made sense to have a battle royale because battle royales is the battle style that was introduced in Alola. And also because we had so many characters. There was 151 trainers. This was a good way to weed out the strongest from the weak. So like, even though we don't have gym badges to kind of show who's the strongest and who deserves to be in the tournament, the battle royale was the best way to kind of get rid of all the weak people, which is why there was so many one shots. Because I mean, not everyone in Alola was really strong. Not everybody even did the island challenges. I think Ash and Gladion are the only ones who did all 4 grand trials in Alola who participated in the league.
Exactly. And I think like just the way the format worked, it made sense that at least the condensed battles where it was never a full 6-on-6 would make sense, because a lot of these trainers have heard about the league not with a lot of time to prepare for it. So it's just more of, okay, I've got maybe a few months. I mean, I don't know necessarily the anime timeline as far as when they announced they would do it, so everyone could see, and then the actual league happening. I know he did a formal announcement like a couple of maybe like a days or weeks before the league started. So I mean, I don't know if that's like the official word that got out. We're like, crap, I never battled before in my life, but sure, let's try it out. Let's see if this level 100 Rattata is going to be able to get me through this or not. But it's a different take on the league, and I think the biggest thing that could be argued, where as far as, is this the toughest league Ash has battled in, or this, in my opinion, I think is the easiest league that he won. Now, I'm not here to piss everyone off and not necessarily justify Ash winning the whole championship, because that's for another video, but just kind of, what do you think as far as the competition of the league and how they condensed the format, where the best battle that we had was a 3-on-3 battle, and then we had a 2-on-2, and then also a 1-on-1?
So basically, like the way the league was set up, that each round, the amount of Pokemon that is used is based off the amount of Pokemon the trainers who are there they have. So it's like, of course, it would be awesome to see 6-on-6 battles and stuff like that. But there was a lot of 1-on-1 and 2v2s because that's the most that the person had. So like a lot of the beginning, the first round after the battle royale was 1-on-1 because there were characters who only had one Pokemon. Lily only has her Vulpix. So why would it be 3-on-3 if she doesn't have one? So I feel like the league almost based their rules on how many Pokemon the trainers had. They moved up to 2v2s in the semifinals, and that's because Guzma only had 2 Pokemon, Scizor and Golisopod. But the round before that, it could have been 2-on-2 as well, but James had only his Marini, so they couldn't do that. So it was like they were definitely changing things up based on the characters, because not everybody had 6 Pokemon. And sure, it would have been easy because other leagues introduce characters and just give them whatever teams. Like, you know, they could easily make up a team. Like Alon, we only saw his Charizard and his Metang until the league, and then he evolved into a Metagross, and then they give him this whole badass team. But it makes sense because we haven't really seen Alon. But a lot of these characters, we've seen them throughout the show, so it makes no sense to make them whip out Pokemon that they've had all along. So you'd be like, wait, when did you have this? And like, it makes no sense. So like, I feel like they tried their best with what they had. You know, they tried to give us a good league with what they had. Sure, it would have been awesome to see 6-on-6, but I feel like it wouldn't really make sense without like bringing up like even like the latest episode, the Mask Royale in the preview with the whole Guzzlord showing up, he whips out a Lucario, and part of me is like, when did you have this? I mean, like, we know he has Incineroar and he keeps that a secret, but when he's Professor Kukui, he has Braviary. All of a sudden he has a Lucario. I'm like, what the heck? And I mean, part of that is because the exhibition battle is going to be a 6-on-6. So obviously he has like a full team that we haven't seen. And it makes sense for him sort of, but for like other characters, especially Ash's classmates, who a lot of them stayed pretty far into the tournament, it wouldn't make sense for them to whip out Pokemon considering we haven't seen them. So basically for main characters, it makes sense. For other, for like main characters, like Kiawe, he only had 3 at the most. So like if he's at the top 4, my bad, and it's like, all right, 6v6 battles, are you're just gonna write in 3 Pokemon we haven't seen for the entire show? That would be lazy writing, that, to be honest.
And I think like the biggest thing to get out of it, at least with this arc, this whole Alola arc, I don't believe it was necessarily based on specifically battling, because it never seemed to be the main storyline in each episode, where I feel like Sun and Moon was more of just like a fun series, not to be taken too seriously. We're still going to incorporate what makes Pokemon, but we're not going to take it to the extent that we have done in past generations, where they're kind of embracing what Hawaii is. It's a lot more of a relaxed climate, and that's kind of how the people are treated there as well. So a lot of this cool battling thing, it's very new to everybody. So the fact that they literally they were not able to complete a full 6v6 full tournament. It wasn't there. People weren't prepared for it. So I feel like this was just more of, let's try it out. Let's see if people are having fun doing it. Maybe this is something that will stick in the long term, and this will just be kind of like our little league that it may not be able to compete with the other official tournaments that go on in other regions, but we're just going to make something fun that the people who live in Alola can enjoy without taking it super seriously. And I think that's kind of what the epitome of the Sun and Moon anime is. It's just a different style to it, and they kept it going through the Alola League, where it wouldn't have made sense if it it was a full 6-on-6, but that just is kind of like, well, how seriously do we take the Alola League compared to the other leagues?
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like this league, I mean, I do give it credit that like I love how it sticks to the whole theme of the Sun and Moon anime, because every other league, you know, the league is like the epitome of the series where we have epic battles and stuff like that. And usually like each league, you know, they have their gym battles and stuff like that. Like the whole point people travel around and even go to different regions is to battle the gym leader so they can get the chance to fight the strongest trainers and become the champion. But Alola never had that. They have the island challenges, and it's different. It's sort of different from the games because the island challenge in the Sun and Moon games, it's like, oh, rite of passage when you turn 11 years old and, you know, you get to be the strongest trainer. And then Kukui switches things up where instead of you having a final battle in the top of Mount Lanakila, then you have like a whole league where you have the Elite Four and the champion. But in the Sun and Moon anime, it's way more relaxed, and the island challenge is still for like personal growth, but it's not mandatory. You don't have to do it. Like battling totem Pokemon and trials and stuff like that isn't even required. Like in the games, you had to do some trials before you get to battle the Kahuna. Like in the Sun and Moon anime, you don't have to. Like you get Z rings and Z crystals if the Tapos feel like you deserve it, or like it just happens randomly. Sometimes totem Pokemon show up and give you a Z crystal because you helped them out. It's not to be taken as serious as other leagues. So when this one eventually showed up, it's not like this region had, oh, everyone has to complete the island challenge before you can do the league. Like, no, it's just more of a, hey, let's get together, let's try this out, let's have some fun. And that was like, I think Professor Kukui, when he announces the league, he says the goal isn't just to find Alola's champion and the strongest trainer, but it's also an opportunity to have trainers and Pokemon get closer together and, you know, just help strengthen the relationship between trainer and Pokemon and stuff like that. And you see that throughout, that throughout the league. Yeah. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, yeah, no, so it's just basically like, so I feel like everything makes sense that happens not only in the Alola League, but just in Alola altogether, where they were very consistent with what Alola represents. And then when it came to the tournament, we got exactly pretty much what we would expect. So I would say as when Ash became the champion, I wasn't necessarily surprised. I was, my part of being surprised was just that he's never done it before, really, but it's a different style, and we'll get to this eventually, or this could be a good transition now, is where it does kind of relate to the Orange Islands, because the Orange Islands kind of has that Alola vibe to it, where it wasn't necessarily the battles that made Ash successful, it was the critical thinking that he did between the different what were they called, the challenges, or
I mean, they were called like gym battles. Like they were gyms, but they weren't really.
Okay. Yeah, so like, because you had to complete the challenge from the Orange Island gym leader, but you would still have, it was almost like you had to complete this, and then you got the chance to battle them, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, so like I think each member, besides like the last one, I think the fourth one, they usually had like a challenge before you get to battle them. But like you don't even battle like all of them. Like the first two, Ash didn't even battle. The first one, I think her name was Sissy. They did like a water gun challenge where they knocked down cans and frisbees, and then it was like a surfing race at the end. And then the second one, they had to climb a mountain and then freeze a glacier. No, freeze like a geyser and then turn it into a sled and sled down. Like it's like very challenge based, and it was mostly kind of like Alola, just to like strengthen the relationship between you and your Pokemon. So like the first two you didn't even get to battle. The third one was an actual gym battle. They had a challenge before that where it was like a target practice sort of thing, and then they had a gym battle, and then the last one was a double battle. But yeah, it wasn't. It's kind of like Alola where like the challenges aren't that like serious, but like then the final battle was actually pretty serious in the Orange League. Right,
because with the Orange League, it was literally just, there was only one person to face, where once you got those badges, it became a big event because it didn't happen too often, where once you would do that, that's when you got to go against, I believe his name was Drake, and he had his full 6 team, and I mean, that team's no joke, because it took Ash not just through the Orange Islands to be ready for that, but it took him his entire journey through Kanto because he kept that team, minus like Pidgeot basically, because then he adopted Lapras to be a part of the team, and then Snorlax started to become better, and then Charizard started to listen to him. So a lot of that was built, and it was basically built on Kanto, which prepared him for this kind of a league match, because his team was so much better in Alola, or not in Alola, but in the Orange Islands than it was in Kanto. So I'd be interested to see how Ash would have done in Kanto if he went to the Orange Islands and then did the Indigo League.
See, like, well, I give a lot of credit to the Orange League, because I feel like that's where it kind of finally refined Ash and made him, like, I feel like Ash wouldn't be where he is now if it wasn't for the Orange League. And a lot of people like to overlook it and think like, oh, that's just filler. And I mean, it kind of is. It's like an anime exclusive arc.
It's good filler though.
But it's good filler. Like, it actually helped Ash's character, because the Indigo League, like I said earlier, the Indigo League was kind of like very experimental in a way, because it was the first Pokemon anime series. That's where it started, and they didn't really follow the games that much. Like, half of Ash's gym battles were like given to him and stuff like that. Like, he technically really didn't deserve to be in the league, and like he didn't really have serious battles in Kanto until the league. The league is where he finally did some real battles, and he mostly got lucky. Like, his first battle with Kingler, who he never battled with, like one shot, like swept the whole team. Like, he was super lucky in the Indigo League, and it wasn't until he battled Richie, which Richie was like basically the better version of Ash, and like he was beating him pretty hard, and he had to resort to Charizard, which he didn't even fully train. So that was like the Indigo League was like an eye opener for Ash to show him that he still has a lot more to go. And the Orange Islands was basically refining him. That, like you said, that's where Charizard obeyed him. Squirtle learned how to use Hydro Pump, like stuff like that. Like, it kind of just refined his Kanto team, and then it made him a better trainer, which set him up for Johto, which is why in Johto, Ash is way better than he was in Kanto, and that's thanks to the Orange Islands.
Okay, just to clarify what I mean by good filler, it's not just because I liked it, but the filler of Orange Islands was character development for Ash, where there's many other filler episodes where Ash doesn't become a better trainer. It's just more of, this was the objective and he accomplished it by the end of the episode while they're trying to get to wherever they need to get to next. The entire journey basically of the Orange Islands was to make Ash Ketchum a better trainer, which is eventually what happened, where you can see that he really developed his skills, he developed his relationship with his team members, and he just became an overall really, like, he became a veteran trainer at that point, so he knew exactly what he needed to do when it became his time to really go against the toughest match he's ever had, and that was against Drake, where he ended up being successful with it, with his Pikachu taking down a Dragonite. And I think that isn't a necessary, let's just bring Pikachu up to level 100 because now the competition's raised. This is how long it took for his Pikachu to be developed from getting it from the episode 1 to this point in time, because we really had a full arc from the very first episode all the way until the end of Orange Islands, and I think that might be the best arc that we got to see Ash Ketchum grow without necessarily being repurposed or kind of be like resetting him for an upcoming region.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like, it's technically not, I mean, they call it an Orange League, like a Pokemon League, but it's not the same, a Pokemon League in the same sense as all the other ones, because all the Pokemon Leagues that Ash has competed in are based off the games, and it's like a tournament where you get to become the champion and then you get the chance to battle the Elite Four. The Orange League, although it calls itself a league, it's not the same kind of league, because it's like you do these 4 gym challenges, and I'm using air quotes right now because it's not really like a gym battle, it's more like challenges, and then you get to battle the final gym leader, because although Drake is the champion, they also refer to him as gym leader, which is like weird. It gets very confusing, and I feel like that's mostly in part of like the anime. I mean, like we said, it is filler, like it's stuff made up by the anime just to hold us by until Ash goes to Johto, which is based off the games. So like that's why there's like the big debate, like, oh well, Ash technically won the Orange League. Well, it's not the same. I mean, compare the Orange League to like the Sinnoh League or like the Kalos League or even like the Johto or Hoenn League. It's not the same. Like they have their own, like it's not even a league, it's just like, it's just a battle. Like it's just like a one battle event. Like it's just a one thing instead of like a competition where you prove yourself against multiple trainers.
Yeah, and that's basically because people don't go to the Orange Islands to become a champion. They kind of just do it like, hey, I just completed this really tough challenge doing the Indigo League. I need to take a break, but I still want to give myself a challenge. In the meantime, I'm going to go over here and kind of learn different ways to be able to strengthen my team that wouldn't necessarily be a black and white style where it's like not the video games, but just in like metaphorically, where it's just I'm training to be able to become stronger, where this was very critical thinking style, how to be able to create a closer bond, and that was different than what we have gotten in the other leagues. And I think Sun and Moon is close to that because this is something they're trying out, but it's still not necessarily the same thing because there wasn't a tournament involved to become champion. It was just like, this is already set up. These are the specific people you're always going to have to beat to be able to be called quote unquote champion for this region.
Yeah, like, and meanwhile, Sun and Moon's Pokemon League is based off the actual Pokemon League from the Sun and Moon games, and just like in the games, it's the first ever Pokemon League, which is why it's very different. And like when you beat the Elite Four in the Sun and Moon games, you're technically the champion. Kukui's the last battle just so you can prove yourself to him that you deserve to be champion, but he wasn't the champion. You're actually the first champion of Alola, which is kind of why I think. Which makes sense for why Ash won the league, because just like the games, the player character is the one who becomes the first champion. So there's no like main champion to beat since this is the first ever league. And in talking about this in the anime wise, the Pokemon League, the Alola Pokemon League is based off of other leagues from the other region, the other main regions. So that's why it's more closer to this one than you would say the Orange League. I mean, yeah, you can compare because they're both kind of different, but they still try to be like the other main Pokemon leagues where they have the tournament with the different brackets and, you build up to become the champion at the end. And even before it was even announced, like earlier, I think it was after Ash's trip back to Kanto, Professor Kukui was talking to Professor Oak and Alolan Oak, Samson Oak, and he was saying, hey, we'll help you come up with gym badges someday or something like that. Like just ideas they're throwing around. Like nothing is really set in stone yet. This is their version of it, but like there was like talk of the ideas of maybe we'll have gyms some days. And they even do that in the Sun and Moon games, I believe. So it's like they're basing it off of other leagues as well. Like, so this is why I feel like even though people don't really want to consider this as a main league, and the competition is definitely a lot lower compared to other leagues because this one is way more casual, it's still in the same style as the other one. They just have their own different rules.
Yeah. I think like it's considered like, yes, he won the championship. Is it a fact? Can you bring it to the same competition as other leagues? No, but did he win a Pokemon League? Yes, like that is 100% a fact. This is basically the beginning stage of something that could be added or developed as years go on, where this is just, it's at the very beginning phase where this is something that I think Ash was a perfect person for this because he's had the most experience, so it makes sense that he won. Like, I would be surprised that he didn't win other than the fact that he's never done it before, but just when you kind of just see his team, see the other teams, and just kind of how he battles and everything where he has the experience, like it makes sense. Like, I'm not arguing at all that he should not have won. Like, he definitely should have won this league, but I'm not necessarily going to give him the credit that he would give if it was in Kalos, Unova. Well, Unova, he didn't really develop any of his Pokemon. He caught too many of them, but that's for a different conversation. But like with Sinnoh, that was probably the one that everyone was most angry at for the fact that his team was 100% ready to win it all, but the writers literally had to bring in someone who owned legendary Pokemon to stop him because there was nothing else that was going to stop him from winning it all because he was definitely the most prepared. So they had to find something that was so difficult to beat to prevent Ash from winning. And I don't really understand why they did it, because I think this will kind of bring it into the next topic. And is this like, are you satisfied with the outcome of Ash finally winning it in Sun and Moon? Do you feel like it should have been done earlier, or do you still get the same exact feeling that you would have gotten no matter what?
I mean, so basically, I mean, I'm happy he won in Sun and Moon. And I mean, like, if you look at it, compared to like everyone else who was there, he kind of deserved to win compared to everyone else. Like, just like, not saying, oh, this is the league where he should have won for the first time, because because I think he should have won back in Sinnoh, and I think he was supposed to win. I think him versus Paul was supposed to be the final battle, but then the anime writers didn't want to make him win. They didn't want to make him win, basically. They were like, no, he has to keep traveling, so we're going to make him lose, which is why they wrote Tobias. The Kalos League, too, I think he was supposed to win, too, but then even the anime staff themselves, they were like upset because they wanted him to win. So I don't know, some dude sitting up in a chair high up there in the company was like, no, he can't win. I mean, I'm happy. Like, honestly, I was happy because, I mean, who doesn't want to see Ash win? I don't know why people argue like, oh, he sucks, he shouldn't win. But if you look at him compared to all the other people who competed, I mean, he was clearly the best trainer there. Like, the only ones who gave him a decent competition, who he had to worry about, was Gladion, which is his main rival, and Guzma. Those are the only two real threats. Everyone else isn't really that serious. I mean, and if compared to other leagues, obviously, yeah, he would have way more trouble. But if you look at other leagues as well, there's always been that one trainer, like, you could totally see Ash maybe losing to. I mean, it was never guaranteed that he was going to win any league except for like Kalos, which was like the one where the first time where it was like, oh, he's definitely going to win here. But every other league, there's always like that one or two trainer was like, maybe this guy could beat Ash. Like, you can realistically see it. But in Alola, there really wasn't anyone out there that, I mean, in Sun and Moon Ash, I mean, his team is pretty good now, especially since his Meltan evolved and his Poipoles coming back evolved. But beforehand, his team is not as great compared to his other teams before he entered the league.
Yeah. If I were to compare his team to any other team that he's had in the past, it probably would be his original Kanto team, where he was still kind of learning about his team. A lot of them didn't evolve. A lot of them were at their very base stage, and the one that did evolve, he wasn't able to control. So granted, I think his Alola team is better than his Kanto team, but as far as just development-wise, his team in Alola just it wasn't at the same level as a lot of his other teams, but it makes sense because that's how Alola has been run. That's the theme.
Yeah, it was very like laid back. Like his Alola team, I mean, not now because now his team is pretty stacked after the league, but before, like entering the league, he had Pikachu, Lycanroc, Torracat, Rowlet, and Meltan. It was very mid-tier with maybe like Torracat and Lycanroc being the toughest ones.
And Pikachu and the writers want him to be.
Yeah, like exactly. So like, I mean, I'm happy for him. Like, dude, I literally cried when I saw it happen because like, dude, it's been 22 years and I've been wanting Ash to win for so long. It was like, it was emotional. Like I was happy for him.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been awesome to see him win in the Kalos League or the Sinnoh League where his teams were a lot better and, you know, he was a lot more serious and a lot more like the battles were more like epic, you know, but I was just happy for him to win like in general. You know, like it's Ash, he won, like it's cool. And I feel like
like he finally did it because we've been rooting for him for so long, and a lot of people have. I think like this is my biggest point when it comes to my satisfaction with him winning it all. Am I happy? I'm super happy for him. Of course I am. But just as far as like, do I have the same satisfaction level as if he would have won in a different generation? No. Part of it because like it took 22 years. Like, as much as it is like a feel-good story that it took 22 years, if it took me 22 years to be good at something, I don't think that was a good investment of my time, to be honest with you. Like, it just isn't there. And I think the audience that they're trying to appeal to are kids when it comes to the anime. So I really feel like if you're going to try to give some kind of a message as far as not giving up, I feel like that might be meant for the kids who grew up maybe in Kalos and they saw he didn't win but he got redeemed in Alola, where a lot of the people growing up not seeing Ash 1, they just stopped watching the anime. They don't know unless if it was like, I mean, it was posted as like national news by ESPN and all these other insanely big networks. But a lot of it is we just kind of fell out. A lot of us don't just accepted that he's never going to win. So now we get the news that he won. It's great, but I just don't have that same amazing feeling that I would have gotten probably where I would have expected it in Sinnoh, or I would have also expected it in Kalos, but mainly Sinnoh because I felt like that was like the best culmination of everything that he's done throughout his journeys, where he's bringing Pokemon from all different regions to represent himself, which I think it's like one of the best things to really see because you're getting those the nostalgia trips because we haven't seen these Pokemon in so long. So now that they're being brought back, you're more emotionally invested to to his team. Where as far as Alola goes, it's like yeah, a lot of people didn't watch it. A lot of people had issues with the art style and stuff, and we don't need to get into that, but it's just more of, it's just like a lot of people kind of fell off from the show. So is it good now? But I feel like it's just a little bit too late for it to finally happen.
I mean, it was well overdue. Like, he should have won a long time ago, but you know, I feel like if the anime plans on keeping Ash Ketchum as the main character, I feel like this was a good way for him to win, at least for now, because I feel like if they're gonna keep Ash going, then it's about time he gets a win. And you know, Alola feels like the perfect region for him to win because the stakes weren't as high as other leagues, and it wasn't as serious as other leagues. So even though Ash won, he still has opportunities to grow and win an even better and tougher league. So like, because if he won in Kalos, where do you go from there? Because Kalos was pretty like intense and badass, and like where do you go from Kalos? You can't make Ash go to another league. Like, how do you raise the stakes, basically? And since he lost there,
I think the only way you can do it by raising the stakes is by taking
the
Elite Four. But the only problem with that is it doesn't last that long. It's not going to last 3 years. So you have to figure out how you're going to balance that, which is kind of like, so what does happen with them next? Are we able to do the Elite Four? Now we know that it's the next anime is going to be featured in multiple different regions, which makes it interesting. Maybe that is going to be his journey, where he's going to go back to each region and try to accomplish those tasks. Who knows? But I'm interested to kind of see, where do you think this, where it's going to go? Whether Ash is going to be continued with him, or it's going to be bringing in a new protagonist, and we're going to have, or protagonists, because like it's an interesting way that they're going to be going about this, with the fact that it's going to be featuring multiple
so
regions.
like the thing with that is like, it's super interesting, but kind of backtracking just a tiny bit, if Ash were to win the league, and he does like the Champions League, like you said, it's going to be very short. And there's also the fact that there's going to be a new region. There's always new regions coming out. So you can't have Ash, let's say, win the Kalos League, do the Champions League, when we have this other thing going on. I mean, his main goal is to be a Pokemon master, but that doesn't just encompass becoming the champion. So even though he won, he can still do other things and get better. And like, he won the Alola League. Like I said, the stakes weren't that high, and you can totally see like Sun and Moon Ash. He can definitely improve and go to a different region. And I can where I see him going, I can see him going to Galar. Like, maybe in the Sun and Moon games, in order to compete in the Galar League and do the gym battles, you have to get an endorsement from somebody, and your main character and Hop get endorsed by Leon, and then your rival gets endorsed by Chairman Rose. So like, a good idea that I thought of is, it's possible that maybe like they hear about Ash winning Alola's first ever Pokemon League, so then they might, like, maybe in the last couple of episodes, they endorse him and they bring him to Galar. They're like, hey, it's cool that you won this first ever Alola League. Why don't you test your skills in Galar, which we have, that's a lot more challenging, because the gym battles and the Pokemon League is taken way more seriously in that region. Like, it's a whole event, and like, I think they even said, I think Masuda or Omori in one of the Nintendo Directs, they said that Pokemon battles are the main form of entertainment in the Galar League, which is why they like, it's like such a big event. They have the stadiums, and even the Pokemon League is now based off of the anime. So it's not like the anime where, it's like the anime now, where you battle in a competition with different rivals to battle the champion. It's not like the Elite Four and then the champion. So now it's more anime based. So this feels like the perfect place to take Ash, considering they do that. But the fact that this series is featuring other regions as well is such a big mystery, but also really interesting as well, because they could totally take Ash to other regions again, maybe visit old characters. But like, another idea I've had, and I talked about this with other friends, is maybe it could be like a Chronicle style series. So while Ash is in Galar, we get a couple of episodes going to his other companions, seeing what they're up to in other regions. Like, that could be very interesting as well. Or maybe Ash does go back. I mean, it's a big mystery, but like, I feel like they're still gonna keep developing Ash's character, and especially like, there's hints and stuff like that. Like, there's the Rotom phone in Sword and Shield, so that could easily be like Ash's Rotom from Alola, who just gets transferred to a new Pokedex. Like, there's like, you can totally see Sun and Moon Ash segueing into this new series, and now that he's won the Alola League, I can see him going to like Galar, a different region, and maybe taking battles a lot more seriously, because they don't really take battles that serious in Alola. It's very chilled, very relaxed. But now Galar does, so this could be a chance to see Ash improve even more, and maybe even win a league where the stakes are even higher.
Yeah, I think with that was a good point that you had with bringing Ash to Galar as being the main protagonist there. But because it is going to be featuring other regions, that's when we are going to be seeing maybe brand new characters or characters that we've experienced in the past, that they would be able to run the show for that specific region. And it would be like a Chronicle style TV series, where I think with what they're learning, or at least what they learned with Sun and Moon, is they don't need a three-year arc for a character, because that's a lot of time, especially for like let's say a kid is 7 years old and he saw Pokemon for the first time, and maybe he's into it for a year and then he's just not into it anymore, which I'm assuming happens with a lot of different kids. So they might be realizing 3 years is too long for an arc. So what we're going to do is we're going to have multiple arcs for different characters, and it's not going to be filler, but each character is going to have a specific storyline, and we're going to follow them through shorter timelines, and then we're going to advance to a new one. So I think we could see it starting out in Galar with Ash, and we're going to get a very short anime series where maybe it's a few months and none of it's filler. He kind of gets straight to the point because his only goal is battling, and then he's going to bring all of his Pokemon back for these specific challenges and then take on the Galar League, where we could see a very fast-paced approach to that. And then once we finish there, that's when we're able to kind of see what these new characters could be representing in other regions.
Yeah, and like the fact that they're going back to the original Pokemon logo, Pocket Monsters, simply, like no Sword and Shield, no other subtitle, it's kind of like they want to go back to the basics and almost make this like a new starting point for the anime. And since the Pokemon anime has been going on for so many years and there's so many episodes, it's almost impossible to catch up on all the episodes like fast enough, you know? So like this, the reason why I think they're doing this, they're focusing on each region. So like if you never got to watch Ash and Kanto or in Hoenn or Johto or Sinnoh, this could be a good way where we could get a couple of episodes highlighting something going on in Johto. You can know Johto region Pokemon, see what's going on there, you know, while Ash is in Galar. So I can totally see that like being the thing that they do.
Exactly. And I think what they learned, or the Pokemon franchise learned, is from what they did in the movies, because not a single movie was featured in Alola. So I think that was their experimentation to see what they can do that is not featured in the current region that is being represented as the newest game in the franchise. So they try to change things up. They tried Kanto. They did Johto with everyone's story. They did the 3D CGI remake of the Pokemon the first movie. So I think they're understanding that you don't necessarily need to make things that is following the current region. So now that they basically have realized that can be a success, they're going to start enacting that with this upcoming anime, where it is going to be something closer to a Chronicles format, and we will be seeing multiple characters being used. We're going to see new arcs, and I think the biggest thing to understand is that Pokemon doesn't need Ash to be in the anime for it to be successful. They just need it to be Pokemon, and that's going to do its job no matter what. It's going to be sad if he is gone, but he doesn't need to be the protagonist. And even with Pikachu, I'm sure Pikachu will be popping up once in a while, but I mean, we have over 800 Pokemon. There's many fan favorites out there that's not Pikachu, so you can super easily run an entire series with all these new Pokemon being featured, these new storylines and everything. So I think Pokemon did their experiment, and now they're going to see how that can be successful as a regular series rather than just strictly in the movies.
Yeah, I can totally see that happening. And the fact that Ash won the Alola League is probably why they're finally changing up the series, because the big talk of like why they never want to let Ash win is because if Ash wins, then they're gonna have to end the show, or they're gonna have to like retire Ash. But I don't think they want to keep the anime. They don't want to stop the anime because it's a good way to promote the games. It's like they cross promote each other. So maybe I feel like Ash is still going to be in the main protagonist of the show, but they're definitely not going to focus on him 100% of the time anymore. Like now it's finally their chance where they're doing something different, going back to other regions. Since Ash finally won, now it's time to break away from that formula where he goes to a new region and we see him travel and do all the gym challenges or everything, and then go to the league and then lose or win. Now that he finally won, let's do something different. Now we're going to focus on other characters and other things going on besides Ash, you know?
And I think that's kind of another thing that they experimented with in Sun and Moon is, I mean, that like with his kind of group of friends, it was the biggest protagonist group that we've ever had, and we got to see a lot of different character aspects or storylines that were involved in the show where it wasn't always necessarily surrounding Ash. And we saw that in the actual tournament because we got to see full battles of characters that were following Ash along his journey. So I think that was also an experiment to see if we can be invested in other characters, which ended up happening. Like it's not just about one specific character. I mean, he doesn't represent the franchise, he's represented the anime, but this is something that we kind of learned as time went on is we don't need him to carry the torch. Other people can pick it up. Like you have multiple different torches that represent the franchise and still have good stories that are being told.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this league. This is like the first ever league where Ash isn't the main focus. I mean, yeah, he's the focus. He gets most of the screen time and he wins in the end. But there were like some episodes where he just isn't battling. He's just in the sidelines. Every single league, they have like that one episode where it's like, oh, two of Ash's rivals are battling each other, and that's supposed to hype up one for when he faces Ash. But like this league isn't just about Ash. And I feel like that's the Alola League took advantage of the fact that it has so many episodes, because usually most league arcs before Sun and Moon were like 6 to 7 episodes, 8 being the longest with Sinnoh. So since we're up to like 12 episodes now, I think, like they had so many episodes where we got to see every single battle. We saw the Battle Royale. We got to see Jesse and James battle. We got to see Lily battle. We got to see Kiawe battle, Gladion, like everyone battles. And because everyone battles, we don't just see Ash all the time. There's some episodes where it's Kiawe versus Sophocles. There's some episodes, like I said, Jesse versus James or Gladion versus Lily. Like there's like a good like 3, 4, or even like 5 maybe. I'm not 100% sure. There's like 3 or 4 episodes I know for sure where it's not about Ash. He's just sitting there in the sidelines cheering for his friends.
Exactly. And I think that is something that will lead into our next topic, where if he does get replaced, which it seems like he maybe not necessarily be replaced, but he won't be the main character all the time anymore. So if you could pick one or maybe a couple characters that might be able to take the torch from him, who do you think it would be?
Oof. I mean, right off the bat, I want to say Red, because it would be a good way to represent Red. He represents the Pokemon games very well. And the thing with Red is, like, obviously we all know that Ash Ketchum is based off of Red.
Yep.
But I feel like Ash has been such a main part of the anime for so long, and he's been like an occurring character for so long that he's kind of like evolved in his own way and like separated himself from Red. So like before they looked the same in Generation 1 and they were kind of the same, but now Ash is, he has a different personality than Red. Red is very like serious, he's a strong trainer, and now like look how they redesigned him in Sun and Moon, where now he's an adult. So like now he's completely different from the way they were in Generation 1. So like I feel like maybe having Red show up, if we have like a Kanto episode, a couple of Kanto episodes, maybe we could finally get the anime introduction of Red. We can have like the older version of Red show up from like Sun and Moon. That would be really cool. Some other maybe protagonists, like I threw the idea of maybe we could have like older companions come back and they could be the focus. Maybe we could see Brock accomplishing his goal of being a Pokemon doctor, or we can see May or Dawn competing in contests. That would be really cool, because I feel like since the anime is like each series is about 3 to 4 years, we get attached to other characters, not just Ash. So we get attached to his companions, but once he leaves, we kind of wish some of them would stay, or we kind of wish we knew what happens next for them. Like sometimes when Ash leaves, we don't hear from them ever again. We haven't seen Iris or Silent or Serena or Clement or Bonnie since their series ended.
Yeah.
Like it would be cool to see what they're up to. And another character would be like, I guess, all the other player characters that we haven't seen in the anime yet. So basically all the male protagonists that we haven't seen. Brendan and Ethan have shown up like cameos like in the movies, but maybe it'll be cool if we got them as a main focus. Like if it's a Hoenn episode, we can see finally Brendan do something. Lucas, Hilbert from Black and White. Maybe we can actually get the Black and White storyline where it's like Zekrom versus Reshiram, because they didn't really do that with Ash. They were going to, but they did something different with the legendaries. Maybe we can finally have that kind of storyline with like the original Team Plasma. Maybe we could see what's his name, Calum from X and Y.
Yeah, Calum.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Or like the female protagonist of Sun and Moon. She hasn't appeared in the anime. Maybe when they go back to Alola, in an Alola episode, we can see her, and maybe she's starting her island challenge, or maybe we can see how Alola has changed, and maybe they have gyms now, and the league is different. Stuff like that would be really cool.
Yeah, because I think like the biggest thing that we can get out of being like representing multiple regions is that we don't necessarily need to have it in the current time. Like we can go to the past for a lot of the stuff, especially if we have characters that we've experienced before and we know that they've been on journeys. Let's just travel back to see what they did in that journey to accomplish whatever their goal was. Where maybe May or Dawn, they already became like the absolute contest champions. Maybe they're running the whole show, but we don't know of that story, so we can kind of go back in time and see what they did to accomplish that. And you can do that with tons of different
really
characters.
cool.
Like with even with Brendan, like with where we saw him, I think it was just like simple cameos or whatever, but we could just get his story where it doesn't necessarily have to have any filler, because I think that's the biggest thing that I could definitely see with Pokemon is like Sun and Moon was a lot of filler. We don't need that anymore. I want to kind of get straight to the point. Pokemon experimented with their Generation series. They experimented with their Origin series. So I think a lot of this was just testing the water to see what they could what they could do. And this was all during Sun and Moon. So
yeah. So
with this stuff, all of this stuff that they've done with all things anime related, I really believe that they are all experiments to lead into what we're going to be getting for this upcoming anime series.
Yeah, this series definitely has like a lot of potential. I can see it being like a sort of a hybrid between the current Pokemon anime where Ash is the main focus and something be like with like Pokemon Origins or Generations where we break away and we get to see other regions and what happens there as well. That's really cool.
And I think just because they're going to be going this route, I 100% believe that they will be changing the art style when it comes to these games, because
definitely
they've changed it so many times. I mean, Sun and Moon had a different art style. The Pokemon movie, the first one, the I Choose You one, that was a different art style. That one I think was related most to the original, which is what their goal was. Then they went to another new art style with the Everyone story, and then they tried the 3D animation one, and then they did the Pokemon Masters art style, and then they did the Pokemon Origins art style, and then they did the Pokemon Generations art style. So they had like a bunch of different art companies or animation companies take the helm of Pokemon. So I think that was another chance for them to see what fits best, what's the audience reaction to this specific style compared to this style. So I think that they're going to go something that's still going to be appealing to kids, because I think the anime style in Sun and Moon was more appealing to kids with the more curved body lines with everything, and it was a lot more fluent, but I think like that can still be differentiated from the animation style. But as far as the art style goes, while keeping the animation that we got in Sun and Moon, because I think that's where they perfected it, where I think probably the closest thing that we will get would be the Pokemon Masters that we just got for like a little preview trailer for the game.
Oh, that would be good. And like that art style was pretty good. And it wasn't like I saw some people complain on Twitter and stuff like, oh, the art style, it looks trash, it's weird. I mean, it was all animated by one guy and it was just like a trailer for a mobile game. I'm sure like if that's the art style they want to stick with for the anime, they can get a whole staff around and do something like that, and it would look a lot better. But like another art style I could totally see working is the one for Everyone's Story? Yeah, Everyone's Story, The Power of Us. That one is really good, and I like it because it's like a mix of the X and Y art style, which is probably like the best like art style the Pokemon animes had, but it also mixes the laid backness of Sun and Moon, so it can both be serious and like funny and smooth and laid back at the same time, and they can really take advantage of battles can have way more fluid animation because movie 21's art style allows that, but also at the same time they can kind of like break away and with the comedy stuff, because Sun and Moon, I like the comedy. I mean, they overdo it way too much. I can admit that, but it's funny like when Kiawe has his moments, he has these funny faces and stuff, like I enjoy it. And Pokemon has always had like their comedic moments from time to time.
Yeah.
So like with this art style, with the movie 21 art style, they can take advantage of that and make even funnier moments. And you know, when the stuff is laid back, they can. It's a pleasant art style to look at. And then when battles happen, it can look really good, and the animation can be super fluid and super badass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think when it comes to that, where I'm a big fan of that art style, but my biggest thing that I loved about like Pokemon when it first started out was that it was very distinguishable. Where once you saw the characters or just like the art without necessarily seeing any Pokemon in it, you knew it was Pokemon. And I think with the Everyone's Story anime, it was very close to what we see in just regular modern anime, where I didn't see any specific distinction. And that's one thing I always appreciated with Pokemon, is that you knew what it was immediately. So I think just as long as they went that route, but also made it recognizable, where I feel like Pokemon's just trying to keep up with the times, what the current trend is. But you can see a lot of like distinguishable animes. Like a good example of this is Dragon Ball, where they slowly refined the character, but they never changed it where it was almost unrecognizable, where the second you'd see that character, you know exactly who it was. Now, there are arguments as far as what their animation style is compared to Super and to Z, but every screenshot you would see, you would know that's the character. This is what Dragon Ball Super, or just this is just what the Dragon Ball franchise is. So I think if Pokemon can accomplish that, then I'm all for it. So I just want to make sure that they know who they are, rather than kind of, it seems like Pokemon's trying to figure out what their identity is again. And I think that this generation, or Generation 7, was that experiment period to figure out what could be taking control for the many, many years to come.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like the thing is that's why I said like movie 21 is almost like the perfect mix of like X and Y and Sun and Moon, because there's a lot of attention to detail in that art style, but it also doesn't go too out of left field with Sun and Moon, because the problem is like each series has pretty much been the same, and if anything, it's just the art style has just been improving each series, like from Gen 1 to Gen 3, it's pretty much to Gen 4 actually, it's been the same. And then Black and White, it improved a little bit. It was a lot more colorful. You can finally see Ash's eye color, and there's a little bit more detail. Then X and Y took it a step further, but then Sun and Moon goes super simple. And I get why they did it, for like more fluid animation and just because of the whole comedy that the show was going for as well. But I feel like that's so different from how serious X and Y was, that it threw a lot of people off, and it made a lot of people upset, like even me. And to bring up the point that you said about movie 21, when I saw the first trailer, when they showed that girl with like the rainbow hair, like that threw me off so much, because it looks like a generic like anime character, until like they showed Ash, and I was like, oh, I know Ash, he's recognizable. But even Ash looked a bit different in that trailer. Like seeing him in action in the movie and stuff like that, and seeing Pikachu and the Pokemon, they look good, it fits. But I'll admit that it threw me off a little bit, especially because, like you said, they almost kind of had an identity crisis, because the Ash from movie 21 is the same Ash from I Choose You. He has the same hat and everything, but the art style is just so different. Like, and I think that's mostly because since it's Pokemon's 20th anniversary and they've been doing the same thing for so long, they kind of use the Generation 7 to kind of shake things up and try something different and see what works and see what doesn't. So maybe like Gen 8 is finally where we're going to get like, all right, this is where Pokemon is going. This is how it's going to be, like a more refined version of like the anime art style, where they can have fluid animation but also look a lot better and not as relaxed as Sun and Moon. I feel like Sun and Moon, although a lot of people don't like the art style and stuff like that, it can kind of get away with it a little bit because of how laid back Alola is in general. It's a region based off of Hawaii, so they can kind of get away with it. But if they tried to do something like that in X and Y, or like in Black and White, people would have thrown a lot of people off, and it would have been even, I feel like the reception would have been even worse if they tried to go laid back in comedy in those regions, because it wouldn't really fit. So it works for Alola, and you know, some people didn't like it, and I feel like they know that. So like, I feel like Gen 8 anime is probably going to be like a return to form, something a little more closer to how it was before.
Yeah, and I think like the biggest thing that I've kind of just learned, or just kind of also just been a part of this whole franchise for a very long time, is that with the as far as the art style goes, is we're kind of in that that teenage years where we're trying to figure out who we are. This is like the awkward time and everything's changing and we don't know what's going on. So we had what we knew growing up, and then we get a little bit older and it's like, whoa, that's not the same Ash. That's a different voice actor. Where's Veronica Taylor? Hey, what happened to the character? He looks different now. What's going on? So I think a lot of it was changing over time, and I think just now Pokemon's realizing what they are. So definitely this next generation, I think, will be setting the tone going forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited because
now
that we have Alola out of the way. I mean, I remember when it first started, I hated the Sun and Moon anime, and I was like, yo, we have to wait 3 years for this to be over before we can get something good again. But I actually got used to it, and I actually like it and appreciate it. It's not my favorite anime series, but I appreciate it for what it is. And now that it's over, now I just like that feeling whenever like a new generation is gonna start, and like the potential of the new anime and what's it gonna be like, and I love that feeling. And I like Sun and Moon despite how much I hated in the beginning. So now, like, honestly, anything is gonna be good. I feel like they can't really do anything to completely mess it up and make me hate it. I mean, I was against Sun and Moon, which is probably my worst time to be like in the time of a new anime coming out, because every series I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to see the new Ash. Oh, he looks cool. Okay, I look forward to it. And I always like the beginning, but Sun and Moon, I was so turned off in the beginning. But I feel like this one I'm actually like excited, and I know like they probably won't. And even if they do go back to Sun and Moon, they keep the Sun and Moon art style, I won't be too disappointed because I'm already used to it. But, you know, I do think they're going to step it up, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and just to kind of get to our closing points is just when it comes to the future of the anime, I have not been more excited than what I am now for it, because we always knew what to expect when a new generation would come out. Ash Ketchum would be the protagonist. He's going to this new region. He's leaving all of his Pokemon back with Professor Oak. He's going to have new protagonists, or he's going to have new companions that are going to take him along his journey to be able to take on the gym leaders or the island challenges and then go into the tournament, where now we're getting something completely different, where I can't even tell you how excited I was when I saw Generations and I saw Origins. It was such a nice breath of fresh air, where I believe we're going to be getting that permanently now with what's going to be coming out, and I believe we'll find out on September 29th the official reveal of what the future of the anime will be consisting of. So I just know that this is something that I'm going to reinvest myself in, where I'll be honest, I did fall off of Sun and Moon. When I knew the tournament was coming up, I tried to watch some episodes, which they do have a shockingly big amount on their own Pokemon channel for episodes throughout all of the Sun and Moon story. Like, you can easily catch up, no problem at all, without really missing much, where it's like why do I even need a cable for this? Like, you can just easily go on to whatever. Like, I go on like to watch the sub now because I can't handle the dub. I will 100% always be angry that Veronica Taylor isn't voicing Ash. So that's pretty much when I did the switch over to the Japanese one, because they've been consistent with all the characters, and that's just something that I respect, because I just feel like I'm a pretty loyal person, and I just don't I like consistency. I'm comfortable with who I'm around, where I'm not huge on change. That's like some things I have issues with, but as long as I'm comfortable and I can get behind the change, I'm always 100% for it. So I'm just really excited to see what is going to be new that's going to be coming to the anime in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. It's going to be very interesting because, like you said, it's been very predictable. And now that it's something new and fresh, and let's say they do get rid of Ash entirely, now we can at least say he at least finally won a league, you know? Like, so now it's like, it would suck if they like end the anime and Ash never won, because then we'd be so unsatisfied. We'd be following this character for so many years. It's like, Ash will become a Pokemon master. That generic thing where it's like, oh, Ash will continue his journey and he'll become a Pokemon master one day. And you're just left to wonder, okay, when? Like, leave it so open-ended. But because he won, if they ended off here, I'd be fine. I was happy that he won. It was a long time coming. Sure, it would have been nice if he got it earlier, but he got it now, and that's all that matters. And now's a good time to finally shake things up. So I'm looking forward to what they do with Ash, or what they do with other characters in general, because we're definitely going to see like other characters if they get like focus on different regions. So that's something to look forward to.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I think just bottom line is Pokemon's going to be changing in the future. We're behind it. I think everyone else should really give it a chance if you fell off during the Sun and Moon time, where it's going to be changed up really well. And I think it will be cater to maybe just a little bit older of an audience, where I think that they'll be kind of raging, where I think with Sun and Moon it was maybe 5 to 6 as far as their prime demographic goes, as far as like what they are liking, where you've seen a lot of changes with just kids cartoon shows just in general, where the art style has changed with all of them. They're a lot more cartoony, a lot more curved on the edges, and it's a different style. It's more comedic. So I believe that they're trying to please to the changing of what kids nowadays are interested in, which is like the big thing that we saw with Teen Titans, where everyone like that grew up with it loved it the way it was and was pissed that it got canceled, and we bring back Teen Titans Go, and everyone's just up in arms with pitchforks and knives everywhere to attack the corporation of Cartoon Network. But it's a successful show. Teen Titans Go works super well. I even actually went to the movies to see the Teen Titans Go to the movies, and it was hilarious. I just accepted that this is what it is, and I know that they are two different. It's like the characters, they didn't transition with with Ash, he stayed the same, but this is basically a different universe of these characters, and I think that's what I was at least able to accept, where they didn't necessarily change any character's arc. It's just that we're starting over. This is going to be the new take on the characters, and you guys can either just accept with what their arc was then, and this is just going to be something new. You don't have to get behind it, because this isn't for you anymore. This is for a new generation of kids that have a different need when it comes to watching TV shows than what kids maybe in like the mid 2000s or early 2000s thought of as entertainment.
Yeah, and like just the whole saying, you know, nothing good lasts forever. Like things are always going to end up changing and evolving. And if you don't like it, I mean, you're allowed to have those opinions, you know, and if you don't like, let's say Teen Titans Go, or you don't like Sun and Moon Ash, you know, you can always go back. You still have the older version of these characters that you loved and enjoyed, you know, and I mean, that's just how it is. We kind of have to accept it. I mean, we're allowed to disagree. We're allowed to not like things. We're allowed to say it, but you know, at least we can say we have what we enjoyed, you know?
Exactly. So so I would say this is a good point to close off the podcast. So once again, thank you, Zach, for coming on. This is always a great conversation. I always appreciate when anyone comes onto the channel. I always work really well with you. So hopefully we can have you on in the future. This is your chance to be able to advertise yourself. Tell us what's going on with your channel, and we can close it right after that.
All right, guys, you can find me at my channel, LumioseTrainerZac, and expect my Alola League review very soon in the upcoming weeks. But if that doesn't come out yet, you know, there's still a lot of other games and anime content I'm pumping out all the time. So, you know, there's that to look forward to.
All right, perfect. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I don't really need to tell you guys to do anything for my channel because this is where you're watching it. But thank you guys again for watching. I think this is a podcast, but screw it. It's an anime version of the podcast. So we're going to sign it off to Ash Ketchum to say goodbye to us today, and we'll see you guys in the next one, and we're out.